It doesn't get old. Never. It's breeze time again as I fly from Westchester to Vero Beach. Yes, this is the most common route flown by the Masellas, but right away I know it will be different. First, there's snow on the ground, which means that this night flight should be brighter when looking down at New York. Second, air traffic control vectoring to our initial departure fix of white is always different. We'll see what happens when airborne.
Well, hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I'm back at the Westchester County Airport for another flight to Vero Beach on breeze. Let's go.
No trip from HPN is complete without a trip to the observation lounge. Today, I'm not checking a bag and went right to the viewing point with sweeping airport surface views. Runway 34 will be the active runway tonight, and my Breeze A220 will be occupying the runway in this direction. And once we leave the gate, we'll be taxiing in this direction to get there.
Everybody, this is the place to be.
This is a mixed activity airport with a nice mix of varied airline traffic. JetBlue offers a lot of Florida service. American offers service to some of their hubs. There's no customs in this terminal, but Bermuda Air offers service to Bermuda. Passengers arriving from Bermuda go through U.S. Customs pre-clearance and border control in Bermuda. Once they get off the plane here, it's almost like they were on a domestic flight. Now, here's an interesting plane. It's a Rodeo Cessna Citation taxiing out for takeoff. If you know why this plane says Rodeo, let me know in the comments section below. I have no idea. I do know, however, that this is a JetBlue A320 painted in its new colors, which is very similar to the full blue that Breeze uses. This plane is nearly 24 years old, and it looks brand new in these colors. It's been loyal to JetBlue since the beginning. I think the plane was born to be blue. Actually, it really was. I can't wait to jet over to Vero Beach in another blue plane, so let's go on over to the lower level where I'll find out which gate to use once my plane arrives from Vero Beach this evening. On this display screen, it says that my flight, Breeze 915, is on time. This is false information.
I don't know why that sign says on time because we're delayed about 1 hour. Okay, this is our gate tonight for Moxie, gate number 2. All the signs are showing that it's on time, but the app is showing that it's delayed 1 hour. Bit of inconsistency there, but whatever. Anyway, I just can't wait to get on board the aircraft. There's a very light load on this aircraft. I'm actually the first person here for the flight. As you can see, there's no one around me. I think there's only about 25, 30 passengers total tonight. You might have noticed that I'm wearing the color black this evening. Why? Well, I want to reduce reflection when I'm taking videos out of the window. Now today, of course, I've strategically chosen a seat on the left-hand side of the airplane because I'm expecting radar vectors to white. I'm hoping for some really, really good New York City views. And there should be an interesting phenomena, I hope. It snowed yesterday in the New York City area, so things on the ground should be pretty bright. And I hope that makes it easier to see things on the ground. Tonight, our call sign will be Moxie 915. The inbound flight is Moxie 914. 914 is the area code to Westchester County. Now, previously, the flight in the evening from Westchester to Vero Beach was 914, and the flight in the opposite direction was 915. For some reason, it got swapped. I don't know why, but it is what it is. Interesting, though. There's nobody here.
The plane isn't even here yet.
Okay, a few things to be aware of on our climb today. Today we should be using runway 34 for takeoff. Then after departure, we'll be making a left-hand turn. Hopefully we get a wide enough turn that's going to keep us on the west side of the Hudson River to get that great Manhattan view. And we're also going to look for flights to and from LaGuardia, as well as departures out of Newark Airport that are headed to the northeast. Always exciting airspace to fly through. And just remember that if you've seen me fly on this flight before, no flight is the same, so I'm going to make it as different and as unique as possible.
Here comes my plane on runway 34. Just a few moments later, it arrived at gate 2 here at the airline terminal on the east end of the airport. Let's board. This is a mostly empty plane tonight.
Okay, here we are in the back of the plane again on Moxie. I'm so excited.
These seats are empty. It's like being on a private plane. I love it.
Okay, I'm satisfied with the cleanliness of the window on this aircraft.
Some windows can get dirty. This one is clean.
It is like being on a private jet, though. There's nobody back here. One of the reasons why I'm in row 25 is because of the very good alignment of the window with the seat.
Place laptops, backpacks, color bags, and other items completely under the seat in front of you.
The door is closed, and we are ready to push back onto the ramp.
But before we leave, it's time for a message from the sponsor of today's video, Extra. Extra wallets come in a variety of shapes and sizes and colors. This one actually glows in the dark.
With durable wallets and card holders, the value derived from Extra is unmatched. I always carry an Extra wallet with me, and I know I'll never lose it because I can add an air tag to it. Check out their site. They have lots of awesome products. And as a viewer of this channel, if you enter code MASELLA at checkout, you'll save. Visit the link in the description below. Down there, a plane is clearing the runway. When we're ready for takeoff, we'll have to wait for an arrival like this to clear the runway before we can start our departure roll. Now, in the meantime, for us,
It's time to check in with ground control for pushback clearance.
Westchester Ground, Moxie 915, we're gate 2, information officer ready to pushback.
Moxie 915, Westchester Ground, hold the push.
Hold the push, Moxie 915.
well, we'll have to hold until ATC tells us to move. Looks like there will be traffic behind us. What does Peter Masella do when he waits? He thinks about his climb to 12,000 feet after takeoff.
The time now is just after 8:30 p.m. There's less traffic heading down to the white intersection, so I'm really hoping for just some sort of delay vector or just a wider turn so that we can see Manhattan.
I'm also thinking how I should be able to see LaGuardia flights using the airspace around it.
Tonight, LaGuardia is landing on runway 22 with left traffic and departing on runway 31.
And while most eyes are focused on an American Eagle RJ pulling into the terminal gate area, my eyes are honed in on a plane in the sky. A JetBlue Embraer 190 from Boston over Westchester at 4,000 feet, bound for LaGuardia's runway 22. The ground controller has a plan for us now. As soon as a northbound jet on the taxiway behind us is clear of where we need to push back onto, we can officially push.
Yeah, Moxie 915, you're holding for a northbound jet. They'll be behind you in about 30 seconds, and then push back on Alpha Group.
Okay, holding for the jet behind us, and then we'll push back, Moxie 915.
There goes that jet heading northbound, and we're pushing back onto the taxiway that jet just passed us by on. It's a short pushback onto the taxiway, and this is our moment. Taxiway Alpha can get quite busy, but this is the first time during my Breeze flights that I've ever had to hold for pushback. Alas, we're moving. The pushback will cease with no turns being made. Once the tug is removed, the aircraft will turn toward the runway, which will require a right turn, but the tug sets the flight up with the ability to turn left or right when ready for taxi. You'll notice that I consistently sit in the rear of the plane despite my frequent flying. Why? I'm going for the best price, and the seats in the back are less expensive. With all of the flying that I've done over the years, which equates to well over 1 million miles, for me, what I've learned is that the price is the most important, so that's why I sit back here. Just under the winglet of our aircraft, check out another Breeze A220. That flight just arrived from San Juan, Puerto Rico. Now, San Juan, Puerto Rico is not a city that Breeze serves, at least during the time of filming this video, so I wonder what that flight was all about. In any case, you'll notice that where I'm seated, there's some snow under me. That's because I'm in the tail of the plane, and the main body gear will be pushed back up to where the snow is, but the tail extends out over the snow. Okay, we're stopped, and all we need to do is wait for the tug to be removed, start the engines, and then the pilot can call ground control for taxi clearance. I'll move forward to that point.
It's time to call ground.
Ground, Moxie 915, ready to taxi information, Papa.
Moxie 915, runway 34, taxi via Alpha, cross runway 29.
Runway 34, taxi via Alpha, cross runway 29er, Moxie 915.
Now, our climb plan is to turn left at 295 degrees at 1,000 feet on the standard instrument departure procedure, and eventually head to the south, climbing to 12,000 feet. As always, it's my hope that we head west for as long as possible and that we don't get a turn to the south too soon. While I know a lot about flight paths, I don't know what the specific demand will be to get to our departure fix of white, so we'll just have to wait and see what will happen once we're airborne. I'm going to move forward to the takeoff portion of this flight. We've switched over to the tower frequency. However, I was unable to capture the instructions from the controller to our specific flight. The situation at the beginning of the runway is that we need to wait for an aircraft to land on runway 34 before we can go onto the runway and take off. From the left side of the plane, I can see this airplane on approach, and since there were no passengers around me, I was able to see out the window on the other side of the plane. This is great, as it helps me see down the runway, and I'm just looking out for the plane that landed. There it is, so we can now enter the runway. Once the plane clears the runway, we're cleared for takeoff. We're about to start a left turn to 295 degrees, and despite not being able to hear the takeoff clearance, I was able to capture the controller, handing us off to departure control.
Moxie 915, contact near departure, good night.
Over departure, good night, Moxie 915.
Okay, we're going to check in with the controller, and even though we're in the turn, the controller is going to have us turn further to the left. That's expected, so you'll notice that the initial turn looks like it's about to be complete when another dip of the wing will occur. The new heading is 270 degrees.
Departure Moxie 915, you're passing through 2,300, climbing 3,000.
Moxie 915, departure radar contact, climb maintain 7,000, turn left heading 270.
Climb maintain 7,000, left turn heading 270, Moxie 915.
I hope this 270-degree heading can be held for as long as possible. I can see Manhattan way down there, and I really want this turn to keep us on the other side of the Hudson before we turn south. For now, around the winglet is a nice view of downtown White Plains. And since we will be heading south soon, the controller is going to hand us off to the LaGuardia sector that handles airspace to the south of us.
Moxie 915, contact departure 120.4.
20.4, Moxie 915.
When we check in with the next controller, he'll give us clearance to climb to 9,000 feet, likely due to traffic on our route at 10,000 feet, since the max altitude that can be assigned is 12,000 feet.
Departure Moxie 915, we're 3,000, climbing 7,000, heading 270.
Moxie 915, near departure, climb and maintain 9,000.
Climb maintain 9,000, Moxie 915.
Altitude is not as important to me as heading. There's no doubt we'll be at a much higher altitude than we're at now when reaching the 5 boroughs, but the fantastic news is that the controller did not assign us a new heading. We're pointed toward the Hudson, and this is very, very promising. I'm just hoping we can go as far west as allowed, then turn to the left to get a complete New York City view. We can actually see the George Washington Bridge and all of Manhattan from here, but I want to see it close up. Since we're under the control of a controller, we can only wait, and the controller's turn will only come at a point that he thinks is the most appropriate for traffic separation and demand to our departure fix of White in New Jersey. At this point, I'm hoping for a heading of around 220 to 240 degrees. That should keep us on the Jersey side of the river. Well, the time has come for the inevitable left-hand turn.
Moxie 915, turn left heading 180.
Left turn heading 180, Moxie 915.
Oh no! Did he say 180? That's a huge turn to the left, 90 degrees to be precise, and that definitely won't keep us west of the Hudson. We'll definitely lose sight of the Hudson and Manhattan with this turn. That prolonged 270-degree heading got my hopes up high, but there's likely high demand for White intersection, which means we have to wiggle around Westchester County so don't get there too fast. And speaking of being where we are right now, 10,000 feet is now a safe altitude for traffic for us.
Moxie 915, climb to maintain 10,000.
I maintain 10,000, Moxie 915.
The 180-degree heading that we'll wind up on will put us right down the middle of Westchester County and the eastern side of the Bronx with our nose pointed right at JFK Airport. If we were to head to an oceanic fix, that would make sense, but this is not the appropriate heading to get to White, so I know the controller will give us a turn back to the right at some point. The question is, when will that be, and will the turn be wide enough so that we'll be able to see Manhattan? At least we're getting some nice White Plains views. Here comes the next turn from the departure controller.
Moxie 915, thank you, turn right heading 220.
Right turn heading 220, Moxie 915.
220 keeps us east of the Hudson. As a matter of fact, it keeps us east of the Harlem River, so unless another turn is issued, we won't be seeing Manhattan at all, so we'll just have to settle for that distant view that we had on the climb. But there is something that this 220-degree heading will put us closer to, and that elates me. That's LaGuardia Airport, the airport that I love, but haven't flown out of for a while since I've been finding good airfares on Breeze these days. Now that we're clear of any traffic conflicts, we get clearance up to 12,000 feet.
Moxie 915, climb to maintain 12,000.
I maintain 12,000, Moxie 915.
Well, I'm focused on what I can see below, and we're at the southern end of Westchester County. The snow on the ground is making all of the streets brighter, and it will only get more intense as the density below increases. The dark area is Long Island Sound, and we're coming up on the Bronx and LaGuardia Airport. Tonight, LaGuardia Airport is landing on runway 22, with runway 31 being the departure runway, so I'm carefully looking out for arrivals to runway 22 along the border of the Bronx and the Long Island Sound. We're just west of the center of the mainland. By the Whitestone Bridge, we can see an arrival to runway 22 on a 2-mile final. Keep an eye on that plane. We'll see it land, and since it's going slow and we're going fast, we'll catch up to it real soon. For now, I'm taking in the clarity of what I see below as we enter the Bronx while looking down at the Bronx River Parkway. The white snow is reflecting the light very well down there. And we're about to leave the airspace of the LaGuardia controller and get handed off to the next New York TradeCon frequency, which will handle us until we reach the center's airspace.
Moxie 915, Moxie, contact 120.85.
12085, Moxie 915.
I wasn't able to hear a pilot check in, but I heard the controller acknowledge us.
Moxie 915, near departure, roger.
Back to what we see, the arrival for runway 22 is over the East River and will land in a few seconds. About to enter the Bronx is a departure off of LaGuardia's runway 31, climbing on a northwestern heading. That plane is talking to the frequency that we were just on. From up here, we have a brilliant view of the South Bronx, and we can also see how the East River separates it from Queens with LaGuardia Airport in the middle of it all. The arrival for runway 22 is about to touch down on the runway. The tower down there can then launch another aircraft clearance for takeoff on runway 31. This honestly is a perfect position to be in, and I wish we could just pause in the sky to observe the observations at LaGuardia Airport, especially at night. It's almost like a real-life radar, and with careful attention, you can see it all. If I were a viewer watching this video, at this point, I definitely would hit the like button. The controller is going to now have us turn right for spacing.
Foxtrot 915, right turn heading 250 for spacing.
While I'm really enjoying this LaGuardia view, 250 degrees will put us over Manhattan, but I first spot a LaGuardia arrival on a left downwind leg to runway 22, passing behind runway 31, allowing runway 31 to be used for departing flights. Now I've seen the complete picture of LaGuardia, and in the distance we can see JFK Airport, and out in the ocean are ships in the Atlantic at anchor. Don't confuse those for airplanes. Now that we've been assigned a 250-degree heading, it's time to look down because Manhattan's coming up. First, this view gives us stellar views of northwest Queens, again brightly lit due to the snow on the ground. At the bottom of the screen is Roosevelt Island and the East River, and we're directly over Manhattan, so I'm pointing the camera as low as possible. We're flying in the vicinity of the East 70s and 80s on the Upper East Side, and we'll cross Manhattan on a diagonal this evening. This means we'll get a partial view of the Midtown skyscrapers. The bridge down there is the 59th Street Bridge, which serves as a good marker as to where we are. We can start to see some of the tall buildings down there, but we can only see the buildings that are on the eastern side of Midtown in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. We can see the Empire State Building. This evening's colors are red, black, and green in honor of Martin Luther King Jr. The diagonal road on the west side of the Empire State Building is Broadway, which leads to Lower Manhattan. Fortunately, the angle at which we're flying leads to some stellar views of Lower Manhattan, and it's a beautiful night for viewing it. Surrounded by water on three sides, Lower Manhattan has its own cluster of tall buildings, including One World Trade Center, whose base is 12,000 feet below us. We will remain at 12,000 feet until the controller clears us up to the ceiling altitude of his airspace, but because above us there are flights flying to JFK from the west, we will remain 1,000 feet below them at 12,000. Quite often I do indeed look up to see those close-up airplanes, but I am just too distracted what I can finally see down there. This is a grand view, and we can see so much in the vicinity on this very cold winter night, the day after a snowfall. The Brooklyn Bridge is shining bright, and the few lights on Governor's Island make it possible to locate it just south of Manhattan. And the borough of Brooklyn itself is teeming with lights all over the place. It's a very dense area, and the only place where we don't see lights are the Brooklyn parks. The Statue of Liberty is down there, but its bright light makes it hard to make out from 12,000 feet. What's very clear is the Verrazano Narrows Bridge, which connects Brooklyn to Staten Island. We have now seen every borough in New York City on this flight from Westchester as we fly over New Jersey. We can even see further south into New Jersey, into Monmouth County. Below the wing is Sandy Hook. We'll be seeing that in a little bit as we get closer. We're now at a point where we can continue our climb even further, and the controller is going to clear us to 17,000 feet, and we can proceed to White, our initial departure fix.
Foxtrot 915, climb 17,000 directly to White.
The controller has cleared us to White, which is in Ocean County, New Jersey. I'm happy because getting there requires a left-hand turn, and I, of course, am on the left-hand side, so I'm afforded great views of New York Harbor. New York Harbor consists of Upper and Lower New York Bay, and the bright lights of the city contrast perfectly with the dark water of the bay. Check out this zoomed-out view. Beyond Brooklyn is Queens, and you can also see well into Long Island on this very, very clear night. But there's more to see. At 4,000 feet on a 40-degree heading is a flight approaching Brooklyn from the proud arrival procedure to LaGuardia. This plane will fly towards LaGuardia, pass it to the east, then circle around via a left-hand turn to land on runway 22, like we saw earlier. It's time to head out over Lower New York Bay and into Monmouth County, New Jersey on our way to White. We'll resume air traffic communications on approach to Vero Beach. But this does not mean that there's no traffic. Down below is a United 737 from Newark to Miami. It's also headed to White, and since we're going directly to White, the controller hasn't reached White behind us, providing delay vectors. Once past White, however, this plane will actually fly at a lower altitude and pass us at a higher speed. We'll see this plane again, but first, let's take in the beautiful Jersey shore at night. I am all eyes out the window of this A220. It's just great. There goes Atlantic City, the Las Vegas of the East Coast with its bright lights and casinos. That's Rehoboth Beach, Delaware down there, and there goes that United 737 that we saw earlier from Newark to Miami. It's below us and slightly faster than us. It is a treat to see a plane so close to us in its en route phase of flight. We'll still land before it since Vero Beach is further north than Miami. Shortly after that, we reached Norfolk, Virginia. That was followed by Greenville, North Carolina, and then Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. We flew nearly directly over Charleston, South Carolina, before flying out over the water toward Vero Beach.
We're descending.
Around Merritt Island in Florida, we proceeded slightly inland. Today we'll be landing on runway 30 left, which is an approach from the ocean. However, I noticed something that would prevent us from making a simple right-hand turn over the water to land.
I think we're a little high.
Because we were high and fairly close to the airport, we'll have to pass by the airport to its west, then make a left-hand turn south of the airport and head out over the ocean. Then we'll turn left base leg to land. That's a lot of left-hand turns, and we have now descended low enough to check in with the approach control facility for Vero Beach, Palm Beach Approach Control.
Approach Moxie 915, we're descending at a 7,500 to 6,000.
Moxie 915, Palm Beach approach, altimeter 3023, descend and maintain 3,000, same intentions.
Descend, maintain 3,000, looking for the RNAV, runway 30 left into Vero Beach.
Moxie 915, roger.
The RNAV runway 30 left approach allows you to begin from the south or north, and today we will begin the approach from the south. The controller is about to clear us direct to the first point for the southern path, Sunday. Sunday is out over the ocean, just southeast of our destination airport. Once we reach Sunday, we then turn left, and once aligned with the runway, we turn left straight ahead to the airport.
Moxie 915, cleared direct to Sunday to join the approach.
Yeah, direct Sunday, Moxie 915.
As we come out of the clouds, we can see Interstate 95, which is west of the airport. We'll cross over I-95, head east, south of the airport, and then turn left to land. There's no other traffic at all in the area this evening as it's late at night, and this flight is actually going to land later than the scheduled arrival time due to the delay. I'm seated on the left side of the plane, and the airport will be on this side. However, it will be nearly impossible to see since many of the airport's lights are off and won't be turned on until we're on the final approach. Let's move forward a bit. Even though I could not see it, the pilot reported the field in sight so we could fly visually, and he let the controller know.
Approach Moxie 915, we got the field in sight, and we'll go ahead and cancel IFR at this time.
Moxie 915, IFR cancellation is received. Radar service terminated, squawk VFR, frequency change approved, no surf traffic between you and the airport.
All right, thank you very much, squawk VFR Moxie 915.
Here in the air, the IFR flight plan was canceled, and we're now using a VFR code. This marks the end of control for this flight by controllers on radar. The next step is to check in with the airport itself, but there's no one in the tower, so we will have to self-announce our position on the frequency. The good news is that there's no traffic between us and the airport, as the controller indicated. It is indeed late, and there aren't even any airplanes waiting to take off, so we can leave the approach frequency and switch to the next frequency for all to hear, although no one is listening in since there is no traffic.
Vero Beach traffic, Moxie 915, A220, we are left base, 7 mile final, runway 30 left, Vero Beach.
So our captain checked in and stated our aircraft type, position, and plans for landing. Of course there's no response. The next thing the pilot needs to do is turn the runway lights on by rapidly clicking on the microphone a few times. Listen to these clicks. I'll move forward to each time the pilot self-announces our position.
Vero Beach traffic, Moxie 915, we're 5 mile final, runway 30 left, Vero Beach. Vero Beach traffic, Moxie 915, 1 mile final, runway 30 left, Vero Beach. Vero Beach traffic, Moxie 915, we're clear, runway 30 left, we're taxiing via Charlie, crossing runway 4 to the ramp, Moxie, or Vero Beach traffic.
All right, it is a little bit damp here in Vero Beach, but a great flight it was, as usual.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this video from Westchester County to Vero Beach, Florida. Thank you so much for joining me. Remember that I'll be back again with many more videos like this, providing a very unique aspect of being a passenger on a flight. If you haven't done so already, I invite you to click on the subscribe button, hit the bell button, hit the like button, and I'll be back with another video very soon like this. Thank you.